Now, leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, says the House will cite Greater Accra Regional Police Operations Commander, ACP Kwesi Ofori, for contempt over the January 7th storming of the chamber by armed security personnel. That's Mr. Idrisu's response to reports that the Accra Region Police has officially communicated to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Gbagbin, its decision to charge 20 NDC MPs for marching to the headquarters of the Electoral Commission. The Speaker met leadership of the NDC and NPP Tuesday to resolve, among others, which of the two sides will constitute majority and minority. Mr. Idrisu says no agreement was reached on that. He also says he's unaware of the communication to the Speaker from the police.
I have not cited any official communication on that subject, but as I indicated, we are law-abiding citizens. We proceeded on a procession in accordance with Article 21 of the Constitution. What I also do know now is that ACP Ofori, I also saw him in the chamber on the 9th of 7th January. He probably will have to come and explain to Parliament what he and his men were doing in the chamber and on the floor of Parliament at that material moment, because that is also in contempt of Parliament.
So you mean you drag him before the privileges?
He has to, because he has to demonstrate that he was invited into the chamber by the Marshal of Parliament. And as I indicated to you earlier, we are law-abiding citizens. We embark on a lawful procession, and he has to explain the circumstances in which he got into the Chamber of Parliament. The armed military officers will have to explain how they got to the Chamber of Parliament and why they should also not be hauled for privileges and for contempt of Parliament. What happened is a sacrilege. Our democracy came to a standstill with that interference. But if there's no official communication, as I've always indicated, we are law-abiding. We will challenge the process in court, and we'll get our lawyers to work at it.
But that's why nothing of that sort has come to your attention?
No, officially nothing. As you witnessed, we just had a meeting with the Speaker. No official indication has been
given. We agreed on who sit on the right or the left-hand side of the Speaker?
These are matters to be resolved. As far as we are concerned, we are 137. We expect that there will be some communication which may trigger further discussion on this.
But that hasn't happened yet?
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is on the rise. While the virus keeps spreading, protocols put in place to curb spread seem to have been ignored as business in markets boom. Judith Awachitando has been interacting with some traders and customers at the Nima and Malamata market centers and has more in this report.
Here I am at the Nima Market Center, where business is booming as usual. But even with the COVID-19 pandemic still in the system, the safety protocols are not being observed. Market women here say that the pandemic no longer exists.
I
believe God has taken away the virus because of the prayers we've made.
Because
if COVID-19 was truly in the system, we would have all been dead by now. I'll never get the virus. God forbid.
Outside Ghana. Oh, there be me, I reject it.
There's no virus. It's no longer in the system. We were told the virus will last for 2 weeks, but it's been a year now. We still don't know anyone with the virus. The situation at the Malata Market Center is not any different. Most local traders and customers do not seem to be bothered about the rising cases.
But since that last year, this incident has happened, we haven't seen any cases that arise that maybe you see that you can just point this one, say that this one gets that infected of that disease. So as for me, I'm not sure that it has been in the system. No. If it's not there, I'm not sure that maybe I can get it.
We are tired of hearing about this virus. Our blood is surely thicker than the virus. Safety protocols serve to protect the individual and public from the harmful effects of the virus. Wearing the mask is one of them. Mask up. That's the plea of Ghana's health officers who are worried about the rising cases. Judith Awotritando for Joy News.
Well, we'll be talking to a local governance expert on the back of Judith's report a bit later on in the bulletin. But let's turn our attention to something else, something that's generating a lot of conversations. Which former minister or state executive will make it into President Akufo-Addo's new government? That's a big question. There are some names coming up. Our presidential correspondent Elton Brobe joins me now with some names that are making rounds. Elton, a very good morning to you. If you can hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, great.
I can hear Mama.
All right. So you play around the presidency. You must have some names. First of all, I think in the first term of President Akufo-Addo, we got names of ministers quite early. What is causing this delay, if it is a delay?
Well, Mama, it's very difficult to answer this question because at this stage we can only put that question to the person who has the ultimate responsibility of announcing people you want to work with in the second term in government. That is President Akufo-Addo. And all of us, since Monday, we've been asking questions, we've been, pushing our sources to get us information on this matter. Remember that 4 years ago, on the 10th of January, President Akufo-Addo had finished naming his cabinet, and he was left with only non-cabinet ministerial positions and the regional ministers. 10th January 2017. Now, today is 13th January 2021, and we are yet to be told of the persons the president would work with in his cabinet, and then those who work with in his secretariat. Now, I've been pushing to get answers to the reason for this delay. What I've been told is that lots of consultations have taken place already. There have been recommendations from the party, from the regions, and from people who have close relationship with the president. And for that reason, very soon we should expect to hear the president make first appointments, and this one will deal with his secretariat, the chief of staff, the deputy, communications director, and a few other people who work directly in the president's secretariat. That will be the first set of appointments that will come. And then also, that will be followed by the cabinet positions. Now, for the names we are picking from the corridors of power, especially persons who are likely to work closely with the president in the secretariat, it doesn't look like there's going to be much of a change. The current chief of staff, from what we are picking, is likely to still hold that position as the chief of staff, Fimo Pari, also. And she's still started issuing directives. Yesterday we had one to the district chief executives, municipal and metropolitans, to hold on in office until further notice, and also the dissolution of all statutory boards and corporations. And we are told that she's likely to continue as chief of staff in the president's second term in office. Remember that the two deputies that she worked with are all members of parliament now, Asanso Boakye and Abujina Pop. Now, names are taken for the position of Deputy Chief of Staff. I'm hearing Mr. Kwabena Agyapong, the former General Secretary of the MPP, and then the Michael Foriata. Michael Foriata, a lot of people do not know him, but throughout the first term of President Akufo-Addo, he was the presidential advisor on ECOWAS affairs, a diplomat, and I'm told that he may move from that position to become a Deputy Chief of Staff at the president. The Director of Communications position will remain with Eugenia Hen, at least from what we've been told. But the person who worked as deputy during the first term of the president's administration, Abubakar Fati, who is now a lawyer, my information is that if the
Apologies there. It looks like the connection to Elton Brobe is just frozen on us, but he will join us back as he continues with the lists, the names making round. Elton, we lost you quite a bit. You were talking about the Deputy Director of Communications position.
Yes, so remember what I'm thinking is that Fatia Abubakar, who, for now I can still say that she's still working as acting Deputy Director of Communication at the Presidency. What I'm thinking is that she will be moved to the Ministry of Communication and Information. Even that measure, we are told, is still facing some challenges. There are some who are of the view that the two ministries should stay alone, communication and information. But whatever be the case, if the measure is confirmed, Esla will also likely to be the Minister for Communication and Information, but Fatia Abubakar will be moved from the presidency to the ministry as deputy minister, solely in charge of information. And then my information is that former employee of the multimedia group, Jefferson Saki, a journalist with local and international experience, who also worked at public relations officer for President Kufuor, was foreign minister during the Kufuor administration, will be moved to the position of deputy communication director after the presidency. The position of Director of Operation Lord Kwame and few other positions I am hearing will not see any change. Perhaps the new entrant will be the Director of Research at the Presidency, because the President who occupied that position unfortunately died a day after the declaration of the 2020 general elections. So Mohamed, for the Presidency and the Secretariat, this is how it's looking at. We are not likely to see new faces apart from the Deputy Chief of Staff that we are hearing, Mr. Kabila Japon and Michael Furiata, most likely to occupy those two positions. For the cabinet ministerial positions, also we are not likely to see new faces, but we are likely to see faces change to different ministries. For example, I'm told that the current or the acting education minister, Dr. Matthew Pempe, is most likely to be moved to the energy ministry, and his place taken by his deputy, Dr. Yao Adichum, Member of Parliament for Bosumshi, the Ashanti region. The National Security Minister is what I'm told that may see some changes. Initially, we were told that Dr. Matthew Pempe was being nominated for that particular, or being considered for that particular position. The reason being that he has had some experience in that ministry before. My information is that when President Kufuor, when John Kufuor was president between 2001 and 2000, he worked at the National Security Secretariat and he held very senior positions. So he's very much in the known as to how our security architecture works and how he can bring that experience to boy. My information is that he was being considered for either energy and national security. As of now, all that we are talking about are names we picked from the corridors of power. They remain speculation as to now.
Sure.
So let's find out release from the presidency announcing them. But it doesn't look like Napo will stay at the education ministry. What is certain is that Adichum is likely to be the minister for education in the second term of President Kufuor. Napo likely to be energy or the national security. I'm picking a lot of information. Some are telling me if it moves to the Western Housing Ministry, but there are also those who are close to the president telling me that the president intends making him a minister of state at the presidency, so he has continued to do the kind of work he's done for him in the last 4 years as his close associate, his political advisor, and a close confidant. So those information, I'm yet to get confirmation on it. Sure. For the same, there are people who are suggesting that he may be moved to the Lands and Natural Resources and all that. Dr. Nsiasa, a presidential advisor on health, the information I'm speaking is that he may end up at the Ministry of Health for Interior, Defense, and for example, Kojo Ponkroma, new portfolio. I'm told discussions are still ongoing. There are a lot of lobbying and a lot of movement around these positions and these names. And my information is that that's the reason why this has taught for a while. But they are hoping that by the close of this week, we will have some names mentioned, because the president required these ministers to start with. And then also advise the Speaker of Parliament on this communication so that the necessary referral can be done for the appointment committee to.
Okay. Elton, I'm interested in, you mentioned Insiasari. If you can hear me, you mentioned Insiasari and said he could, from the sources, end up at the Ministry of Health. In what position would he be occupying if he found himself there?
At the Jubilee House Health Ministry as substantive minister.
Elton, you have to come again.
Yes. So I'm telling you that Dr. Chiasai, who is currently presidential advisor on health, my information is that he may be moved to the health ministry as a substantive minister. That is the information that we have.
Okay. But Elton, the names are very familiar. We talk about deputies in terms of the presidency. So, but we've also heard that we will have less numbers than we did in the first term. But it doesn't look like anything substantive is changing with the names that are making rounds.
Of course, it really doesn't look like we are seeing a lot of changes. But what we do know is that some ministries like aviation is going under transport, procurement is out of the government, sanitation is going to local government, social development is going to the Ministry of Trade together with business development, railway is standing alone. And my information is that maybe apart from the finance ministry, all other ministries will have just one deputy. Regional ministers will not have deputy ministers. That is the information I'm picking. If these are true, it means that will significantly bring the number down from 125 to somewhere around 70 or 80.
All right, Elton, we will still wait to see the list, but until then, I guess when you hear new names, let us know.
So we are all keeping our eyes and ears on the ground, because at this very stage, this is the most important information everyone is looking forward to hearing. For those who are in anticipation of getting a job, you can imagine the pressure they are putting on other people in terms of lobbying them. People here, media personnel talk about these on radio, and then you get calls from people out there where it's very interesting.
Yeah. Just before you run off, though, Elton, how about the presidential staffers? Will the numbers go down?
Well, apart from, for now, the only name I'm hearing is that of Asanso, who is currently the Deputy Chief of Staff and now Member of Parliament for Bantima in the Ashanti region. If the information I'm picking is true, he will end up as a presidential Minister of State of the Presidency. For presidential staffers, as of now, my information is that once the Chief of Staff is named, one of the responsibilities that he or she might have to pursue will be to look at persons she wants to work with at the presidency. And that will determine how many will stay, how many will go. Because from what I've been told from the corridors of our President Akufo-Addo, says that in the last 4 years, his trade is due to a number of people in the party. What he's looking forward in his second term are people who have competence and who are very good at what they do. These are the two requirements that he's looking forward to in the people he wants to work with in from now to 2024. Competence and people who are very good at what they do. And for that reason, if you fall short of these requirements, after the relationship, you are likely to step aside because you want to leave a lasting legacy for the country, and he's looking at working with people who are result-oriented and who can help him achieve the targets that he set for himself for the next 4 years. And that is the more reason why I'm told that he's had a discussion with a number of people in the party, prominent ministers, prominent party members, and he's made it clear to them that if you have a presidential ambition, it will be fair and good for you to step aside and allow me to work with people who will not have divided attention. So if you have a presidential ambition and you've made it clear, you are not likely to feature in the president's next term. But the interesting thing about this is that the people I spoke to made it clear to me that when they met the president and had these discussions, only 2 names the president mentioned. These are people who, unless they say that they don't want to work again in my next government, they will have automatic position. They are talking about the trade minister and the roads minister.
Okay, Elton, we'll leave it here. Elton Brobe is our presidential correspondent, touching on the names coming up for ministerial appointment. Now, there's a looming crisis in educational institutions as the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEWU, is set to withdraw its services across the country over the failure of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to complete the review of their working conditions. For close to 2 years, TEWU has been at the table with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, negotiating new terms to replace the old one, which expired in 2008. The union in December 2020 threatened to lay down their tools if the commission failed to complete the negotiations. As schools reopen, the union, made up of non-teaching staff of public universities, has elected Wednesday, January 13, which is today, to begin the strike. Mark Denshira Kranche is General Secretary of TEWU. He'll be speaking to us much later on their intended strike, but he tells us this morning the union is meeting the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission over their grievances and will relay outcome of that meeting to us. But El Ankara is the head of public relations at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, joining us with more. Good morning to you, El. Thank you so much for your time. Is it true you're meeting TEWU this morning over their grievances?
Good morning, Mama V. Yeah, we are meeting them tomorrow. We've written to them. We wrote to them yesterday, and we are hoping they are able to make it tomorrow so that we settle the issue.
So, conditions of service expiring back in 2008 in terms of the grounds on which they can stand to negotiate. Why has it taken such a long time? And this is a very common question. Why hasn't this been resolved?
Well, issues regarding conditions of service are like that. It will not be only TEWU having those issues, and normally there are issues related between the group and their employers, their direct employers, be they in the educational sector, health sector, security agencies. Normally those things are directly lined, and it takes a lot of considerations before some of these things are settled, because we have a single spine salary structure right now where you have to make sure anything cuts across board. So there are some allowances and stuff that cut across board, and there are some that are institution or group specific that are dealt with. So you take one after the other. So that's why it might have taken so long. But then for TEWU, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, we started negotiating with them in 2019. We've held several meetings. There were a lot of issues that were brought on board. We've tackled everything. We've agreed on everything with TEWU, with the exception of two outstanding ones. And the understanding was that the two parties, that is Fair Wages and TEWU, sit down and come up with scenarios on how to apply that. So that's what we are on right now. You will understand that December has been quite a hectic year, and Fair Wages doesn't take unilateral decisions on these things. We have to collaborate with the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, the Ministry of Finance, and some other institutions that are relevant to this. So that is why. But almost everything on the table has been dealt with, and we only left with two. In actual fact, during our last meeting, and I think that was October 20th, Fair Wages recommended that we sign off on those aspects that we have agreed on, so that the two outstanding ones be dealt with later on. But then the leaders of TEWU thought maybe they would have to wait till we've completed everything. So that's where we are at the moment. We've dealt with most.
El, if I may, what are these two outstanding issues you talk about?
I would rather TEWU told you that, because it is not healthy practice for us to mention issues related to conditions of service in public. They are confidential issues. So when we come out saying, okay, we've done A and B and C for them, and we are left with this and that, it looks as if we are trivializing the issue. So if they will want to tell you, that will be fine. Then we can respond to it at the moment. If you and for you, if you wouldn't mind, after the interview, I will tell you that on an embargoed understanding.
Okay, El, so let's move forward with this then. Is TEWU the only outstanding issue when it comes to the educational sector? Are they the only group negotiating with you and happy
No. When it comes to negotiations of this, you complete one and then another one comes up. So, for issues that have gone to the point of strike, no, there is no other group, and even for this strike, we are quite surprised because we did not declare a deadlock. There is no end to the negotiation. It is something that is ongoing. We just came on a hold so that we complete the other two. So there is no such development.
What, in your view, made them unhappy to take this position of a strike?
Let me give this a long stretch. I wouldn't say that maybe the leaders, the representatives at the table, are that, for want of a better word, unhappy because they know the progress of work so far. But I can understand that there will be pressure from the ground, and when it comes to that, the leaders have to find a way of navigating between their members and then the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. If you check the letter that was regarding this strike, it came from Kumasi, I think KNUST. So it could be about information flow within the membership and leadership of TEWU. But then the important thing is the issues are brought on board and we deal with them.
I'm sure the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission understands, especially because we've taken such a long break in education, that we can afford to have strike actions around this time that would disrupt this calendar any further. So in the interim, is there something that the Commission intends to do to stop them from embarking on this action?
Yeah, that was why we took the preemptive move. We made a preemptive move to invite them tomorrow. You know, when a group threatens strike like that, National Labour Commission gets uncomfortable. The immediate decision they will take will be to invite both parties to the Labour Commission and then urge us to go back to the negotiation table and trash out whatever the issues are. So on our past affair with this, we said, why do we have to wait till maybe Labour Commission invites us? We took the initiative yesterday and invited them. The letter is...
But it's interesting, El, not to cut you, it's interesting. Why didn't you invite them before the notice of the strike?
Well, I know where you're taking this, as if, why do you wait for a crisis before you go about chasing it? That's not, like I said, there was no sign of discomfort between the negotiating parties. We were at the table, we understood that we completed this number, we are only left with two. There is work going on. It isn't like, okay, we've dropped two, we've come back to lean back, enjoy Christmas, drink Sprite, and have fun. No. The work is being done on the two. Remember, when it comes to salary issues in the public sector, you don't take unilateral decisions. We are working with the Ministry of Employment, with the Ministry of Finance, and other government agencies. Now, when you take a decision on TEWU and non-teaching staff, you have to be careful how that decision affects teaching staff. And you have to be careful how it may overflow to the health sector, nurses, pharmacists, doctors, etc. How it goes out to state activists, how it goes. So it's something that cuts across the public sector, and we're dealing with equal pay for work of equal value.
But there's a danger here. Yeah, there's a danger here, El, and I don't know if you see it. Because once one party takes this position in terms of gives notice of an intended strike, and you call them to the table immediately, you would have another group rise up to give notice of a similar action, thinking that is what will make you call them quickly back to the table.
Sorry to burst your bubble around this issue. The important thing to note is Fair Wages doesn't take decisions based on strike. I mean, the policy gives no room to strike action. In actual fact, the moment you go on strike, you tie our arms, and we're not supposed to negotiate under threat. It is not good labor practice. So Fair Wages doesn't handle strike issues. It is National Labour Commission that handles strike issue, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, but in this case, you said you've been proactive.
But the point is, we're being proactive. So the point is, this is a group. They are our partners. They are our social partners. We work with them. They've gone on strike. It's surprising that I got to know about this strike at the same time. Possibly you even got to know about it earlier than I did. which wasn't too fair for us. So we thought, okay, this is what we've heard in the public domain, and please come, let's find out what exactly is going on. Remember, we did this and did that and did that. Remember, we agreed on this and that. What is going on? And then we, together as one party, we look at the way forward. So there is no bad blood at the moment. We are meeting tomorrow, and everything will be laid to rest.
Okay. So for those who are interested stakeholders, what should they expect tomorrow from this meeting?
It will be presumptuous and preemptive on my part to say, okay, after tomorrow's meeting, this is what you're going to see. I wish I could determine that now, but that's almost impossible. The parties will meet and will settle issues, and definitely I'll keep you posted.
We'll leave it here then. El Ankara speaks for the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. We've been talking on the back of that notice given by TEWU of a strike. Now, let's stay with education. This time, we talk about students, because students of the University of Ghana have expressed dissatisfaction with the measures put in place by management to prevent the spread of COVID-19 following the reopening of school on Monday. Many students could be seen without their face masks as they went about their business, disregarding the other preventive protocols such as social distancing. Meanwhile, the university is assuring it will do more to ensure strict adherence to the protocols by both staff and students. JoyNews' Kweku Asante was on campus and found this report.
The University of Ghana reopened for this year's academic year on Monday, 11 January 2021, but with concerns about the lack of adherence to government's COVID-19 preventive protocols. The first day on University of Ghana campus after reopening was an eyesore. Some students went about their manual registration without face coverings, with very little or no social distancing. Today, the story was a bit different. Most students were seen in their face coverings going through their residential and academic registration. Some students of the university are dissatisfied with the measures put in place by the school to limit the spread of the virus.
I wasn't really, happy with that particular initiative. Bringing students for in a room where you realize that we have accommodation deficit. And I have always said that this accommodation deficit would only be solved only if you build hostels. And I think it's one of the most important things that the university management must take into consideration. You cannot accommodate 4 people in a room, whereby we are well aware that the COVID is still increasing. The cases are increasing. Today we have about 1,261 COVID cases, and you are keeping 4 students in a room.
The university seems not to have put measures in place to deal with issues of COVID-19. The basic one is the wearing of nose masks. So you realize that across the 4 facilities we are in right now, many people are not wearing their nose masks, but they are able to enter into the various halls. Primary among the COVID-19 protocols is the washing of hands before you enter any facility. You would expect that every other hall you get to, there are, Veronica buckets and so on for people to wash their hands. None of that is being done. You would expect that people's temperatures will be checked. None of that is being done. So I'm wondering whether the essence of the whole double track thing is to control COVID.
I would say that there's more room for improvement. I wouldn't say that we have put in place totally watertight mechanisms to prevent the spread of COVID. They are enforcing a no mask, no entry policy. There are taps here that people are supposed to, wash their hands with the water that is flowing from before they enter. I think for now, these are the mechanisms that have been put in place.
Meanwhile, Dean of Student Affairs at the University of Ghana, Professor Alufa Bobkin, says the university has put in place adequate measures to ensure adherence to COVID-19 preventive protocols, and also to ensure that what happened on the first day of reopening does not happen again.
It was a bit, I wouldn't say surprised, because the numbers that came yesterday was just too huge. And because it was the first mover advantage, it was difficult trying to tell them that you had selected a bed online, you were not going to lose it. So take your time, be in the line. Some also came with their parents and all of that. So that was a challenge. We observed that ourselves, and we apologize for what happened. Word had gone out to all the halls. In fact, yesterday on the hall masters and senior tutors platform, we discussed this, that look, what we observed yesterday from our point of view wasn't even the best for us and for our own safety and our staff and all of that. So, and I am happy to some extent today because I'd gone around again this morning, and I'm happy to some extent what I'm observing, that at least we are learning from the errors of yesterday, and we are not at the peak of it, more or less, in terms of observing all the protocols, because I still see students walking around without the nose mask and all of that. But we have incorporated all of this in the orientation for all freshmen.
Professor Bob Kim also defended the decision to fully populate the halls of residence on campus.
We did so also in line with health advice, that in the annexes where it's a bit spacious and airy, it's okay to put 4 in a room, but in the main halls it's 3 in a room, 2 outer, 1 inner. This is also based on advice from the University of Ghana Emergency Response Team, which advises the university holistically on this pandemic. So we are just working in line with advice from health experts.
Although the university will undertake a large part of its academic modules online, there are still concerns that with halls of residence and hostels populated fully, the risk of the spread of the virus may be high.
We stay with the subject of education a while longer because the Ghana Education Service is encouraging all girls who became pregnant or gave birth during the COVID-19 period and the induced closure of schools not to shy away when school reopens. Speaking at the national launch of the Back to School and Re-Entry campaign organized by the Ghana Education Service, MasterCard Foundation and UNICEF, Deputy Director of the GES, Anthony BOATENG, stated some children who also engage themselves in economic activities such as illegal mining during the break would have to be encouraged to return to school. Here's a report by Maxwell Agbagba.
The UNICEF Country Director, the PRO of the Ghana Education Service, Cassandra Chum, and others embarked on a house-to-house campaign to get children at the basic school level back to school after a long break. This is part of the Back to School and Re-Entry campaign program. Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Anthony BOATENG, says authorities are particularly worried about girls who became pregnant or gave birth during the period.
Some girls need care. Unfortunately, management of Ghana Education Service, with support from some partners, initiated the Back to School campaign. The purpose is to sensitize Ghanaians, especially parents and community members, on the need for all children to return to school when school reopens. This means, therefore, that every Ghanaian child is being welcomed back to school, even including our girls, who for one unfortunate reason or the other got pregnant or gave birth in the course of the school closures. The GES still insists on sexual abstinence among all school children. However, under the current circumstance, we do not want any child to drop out of school simply because of COVID-19. That is why we are encouraging girls who are pregnant or those who have delivered to return to school.
The GES Deputy Director says to ensure there is no overcrowding in especially public basic schools, district directors of education have been tasked to put measures in place to ensure social distancing.
We have done our analysis, we have the figures, and we are saying that we'll be able to manage the situation. There will be some few schools where there will be overcrowding, and because there will be few selected and isolated, we are mandating our district directors who will be in charge of these specific schools to take specific decisions to ensure that the social distancing and the children can still learn in safety and in health.
UNICEF Country Representative Anne-Claire Duffy has been admonishing parents to ensure their children return to school.
Yes, I mean, globally the COVID-19 pandemic has had a terrible impact on children. We have 1.6 billion children that have been affected because they missed out on learning. And in Ghana, we have 8 million children who have also suffered from that situation. But also you have some vulnerable groups. And indeed, I mentioned adolescent girls because we are very concerned about the increasing number of girls who have become pregnant as teenagers. And some of them also got married before the age of 18. Now, Ghana has policies and strategies protecting girls from teenage pregnancy and early marriage. But unfortunately, with COVID, we sort of went backwards, and we are worried that we're going to lose all the gains that were made prior to the pandemic. So, first thing is we want to make sure that all the partners continue to work together to prevent teenage pregnancies and early marriage. When it happens, we have programs in place. When I say we, it's the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, to make sure that even if a girl has delivered a baby, that she can go back to school and she gets the support from the family and the community. Because we don't want girls to give up on their dreams and on the future that they deserve. We also are calling on boys and young men to protect those girls because it's also their responsibility. And the worst I've seen too many times is when a girl gets pregnant and the boy or the young man disappears. That's not fair.
You're also watching News Desk here on Joy News. Coming up next is Business with Daryl Kwao. Stay for it.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. The Securities and Exchange Commission SEC says it stands by its warning about the operations of Chinese firm Chai. The regulator of the capital market in a recent notice directed the public not to deal with the Chinese firm, accusing it of engaging in capital market activities without the required license. But Chai Century Hengyu Group is rejecting the claim. Deputy Director in charge of Legal Affairs at SEC, Deborah Mausu Ejemfra, tells us why SEC still stands by its warning.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has as its mandate investor protection. So anything that concerns investors is something that we have to issue a warning on if we feel that there's some threats to investors in Ghana.
How did the operations of the entity, that is CHY More, come to the attention of the SEC?
We want to first thank investors in Ghana because at the peak of the inquiries we got from investors, we were getting about 50 phone calls and emails in a day with inquiries about the operations of the CHY company. In addition to that, the SEC itself has a monitoring team. So we also picked up some signals about the operations of this company, which led to us inviting them for a number of meetings and also undertaking our own investigations. Then thirdly, the SEC doesn't work in isolation. We work with other law enforcement agencies, so we got some information from them as well.
So what was the conclusion of the SEC after these investigations?
What the SEC noticed is that there are some characteristics of capital market in the operations of CHY company. What it is that there's the argument that they are saying they operate an e-commerce business, but it doesn't matter what you call yourself. It's important that the regulators also ask themselves questions and investigate your operations. So irrespective of the fact that they said what they are doing is called e-commerce, our investigations show that there are some characteristics of capital market in what they are doing.
In other news, furniture retailers are upbeat about business prospects as schools resume. With schools reopening on January 15 after the long COVID-19 break, furniture dealers are hopeful of recording an increase in sales. Anita Sewa Ajuga interacted with the retailers in the Ashanti region capital, Kumasi.
of desks has been slow, but the furniture retailers say they recorded high sales of whiteboards during the COVID-19 lockdown.
During the lockdown, they bought a lot of whiteboards. I know by next week we're going to record high sales of desks. He said because children were at home, a lot of parents bought whiteboards. We are hoping to make a lot of sales by next week. He said business has been slow.
Headmaster say I know about no be no to school by ne person ni nyanton dex if I say board ni see no and say tama na obi anko school no tama yin na ofin na ma me fo no ma be to the church mo ma na dey ofin kakaka by be school ni dey dex na anko for dey mo no be chire.
Anita Sewa Ajoga reporting.
All right, that's it for business. What's happening?